Google just completed the shortest Pixel event of all time, and honestly, I'm kind of okay with it because there was still quite a bit of fluff at this event, but it didn't take up much of my time. They didn't have to stretch things out longer than they needed to be, and they were done in 30 minutes. Most of the event wasn't even about the phones in the first place. So, on the spirit of being time efficient, let's begin. I know most of you just want to talk about the phones, so let's talk about the phones. The Pixel 5 is $700, and it still has Touch ID on the back. It's made of aluminum, and at the same time it has wireless and reverse wireless charging, which I found somewhat interesting, because we were told for many years that aluminum phones could not have it, but apparently there is a plastic cutout in the back of the device that they have painted over with plastic, so you can't really tell that it's there, but it technically has an aluminum enclosure and yet still supports wireless charging, which I just thought was interesting. I'm glad it does. It has IP68 water resistance, no headphone jack, and yes, that will come into effect later. And it has a dual camera on the back with a 16 megapixel ultra wide camera, which if you guys recall, way back last year when the Pixel 4 event happened, they talked about how ultra wides are fun, but telephoto is more important. Yeah, that guy was fired, so they didn't like the results they got out of him, and they have decided to ditch the telephoto camera, as well as the Soli chip, as well as face unlock sensors, and just go back to the good old-fashioned Touch ID on the back. Kind of surprised that for $700 in 2020 they can't put the fingerprint reader in the display. And also it's just 90 hertz, not to mention up to 90 hertz. So I imagine under certain display brightness settings it probably goes back down to 60 hertz like the last Pixel did. And it's got a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, so definitely a big improvement from last year. 6-inch display, but also no Snapdragon 865. They decided to compromise a little bit here with the Snapdragon 765G, which I think is noticeably a bit slower than a lot of the 865s we're seeing in more and more Androids these days, and I very much question how that's going to age with time on a $700 device. I don't know, I just think overall this product is a little bit too expensive, especially in comparison to the actual good Pixel that was launched today, the Pixel 4a with 5G, so it's quite a mouthful, but yeah, I recommended the Pixel 4a a few months back when I tried it out myself and reviewed it. I thought that was a solid phone at a great price point, and this isn't really much of an exception. There's no wireless charging or IP water resistance, but it's only $500, and it has the exact same processor, exact same GPU, and the exact same camera array as the Pixel 5. But you also get a larger 6.2-inch display. It's only 60 hertz, so it doesn't go up to 90, but still, only $500. Same cameras and everything, plus you get the headphone jack back. So if some of you guys really care about using your old headphones, the cheaper Pixel 4a allows for that. And it still has 5G, just like the Pixel 5 does. And there's $200 between these two phones, so something's telling me the entire purpose of the Pixel 5 was not actually to sell well. The purpose of it is to make the 4a 5G seem like a better deal. But as much as we're talking about these two phones today, I also want to remind you guys that the regular Pixel 4a is also an incredible deal. If really all you care about is decent image processing and having stock Android and getting quick software updates, please do consider the fact that it is $350 to get a phone that looks incredibly similar to the Pixel 4a 5G if you like having a more compact design. Pixel 4a, I would still argue, is the best deal out of all these phones because you really don't need 5G, especially with more and more people at home, and these are only getting 3 years of software support anyway, so expecting that, well, someday 5G will be more you're still gonna be using Wi-Fi most of the time, and 5G coverage is definitely not where it should be, and I'm very curious how the battery life of these phones is going to behave once they're actually running a 5G connection. Like on the website, they brag about, hey, you can have a 5G hotspot, but knowing how Android handles smaller batteries like this one, that the Pixel 4a with 5G has a 3,800 milliamp hour battery, which in an iPhone, I feel like that could get you a lot further than it could with, you know, a Snapdragon chip in a Pixel phone like this one, because there were a lot of Pixel 4 battery complaints last year. So I guess we'll just have to wait for the reviews to see how the battery lives handle themselves, but I'm guessing that 5G is still not going to be used. As I've run many polls in the past, most of you don't really care, and you're a more tech-oriented audience. Imagine the everyday consumer. They probably care even less about 5G. From the front, though, both of these phones definitely look pretty solid. They're very simple, and I know there's some of you out there who actually like having Touch ID on the back. You're comfortable with that, and you want it to stick around. So for those of you out there who, you know, want a solid camera with new portrait lighting effects, and you like the ultra-wide stuff, and you like it being done by Google, I suppose there's a little bit of a market out there for the Pixel Pixel 5, I just feel like Google is really charging extra for these features that I don't think warrant an extra $200. All you're getting for that extra $200 is wireless charging, water resistance, and 90 hertz. And I guess it's made of metal a little bit. So in my opinion, the Pixel 4a with 5G, much better value, much better features, and the Pixel 5 should have been cheaper, or at least had something else to offer. Like maybe if the Pixel 5 had a triple camera system, so you could have ultra wide and telephoto, I think that would have been nice, and have Touch ID built into the display. That for $700 I could get behind, and I would say it's fairly priced. But for how they priced it today, yeah, I think Google is still asking for too much with their flagship phones, and the Pixel A series, you know, the cheaper ones, are clearly the better way to go. And in my opinion, anytime Google does something budget, it always does pretty well. Speaking of, they also announced a new Chromecast dongle with Google TV, which is just kind of, you know, Android TV kind of reborn in a new design and interface. Basically, you use it for what you use any TV streaming box for. You can watch YouTube, Netflix, which they were very proud of. Felt like there was a 10-minute section of this event that was just advertising how you can get Netflix with the Chromecast dongle. But it's a great deal though. I mean, it's only $50, you get a remote, and you get a bunch of Netflix included with it. So hats off to Google for making an affordable streaming stick that seems to be high quality and comes in 3 colors. Even though it's going to be plugged into the back of your TV, you have color options here. Whereas the Pixel 4a, something that you carry around with you all the time, yeah, no, that only comes in 1 color. Pixel 5, Pixel 4a with 5G only come in 2 colors. But yeah, that stick that's going to be in your HDMI port all the time, we wanted that to come in 3 colors. Also, they announced Nest Audio, which is this updated smart speaker that, yes, took the exact same colors from the iPad Air unveiling. It's uncanny how similar they look. And this costs $99, but should have much better sound quality than the Nest Mini. I don't think that many people are gonna buy it, mainly because the Nest Mini is just so dang cheap, and most people who get one for free because it's included with their membership of something, or they get it at a discount price. So unless they can substantially discount the Nest Audio, most people probably aren't going to pick one up. $100 is a good price for it, but still, majority of the smart speaker market is all about those tiny little pucks that can talk to each other. So yeah, that pretty much sums up the announcement. It was kind of exactly what we were expecting, but was there any point that you feel like I'm missing, or do you think Pixel should keep making phones in the future? Because I personally think they should just turn the A line into the only line. They should be only making phones like the Pixel 4a from here on out, and just stop with this whole flagship nonsense. We don't need more phones like the Pixel 4 and Pixel 5a, and it sounds like Google's not expecting to sell very many of these anyway. So anywho, I'm out of Team Pixel. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.